Hello everyone and welcome back to CodeChef. In today's video, we are diving deeper into the world of for loops in C++. If you have already understood the basics, this lesson will take you one step ahead. We will talk about nested for loops, how to control loop execution using break and continue statements, and finally understand the scope of loop variables. So let's get started. Nested for loops. A nested for loop means placing one loop inside another, where the outer loop controls the number of rows or the bigger cycle, and the inner loop runs completely for each single iteration of the outer loop. Coming to the syntax, so here we have one for loop, then inside the for loop we have the same three parts that we discussed in the last video: initialization, semicolon condition, semicolon update. Then the bracket begins for this for loop, then whatever code we want to write here we will put there, and again we will write another for loop inside this bracket for, then in bracket initialization, semicolon condition, semicolon update, and then bracket close. Now the curly brace begin for the inner loop body or code, then bracket close for the inner for loop code and bracket close for the outer for loop code. Talking about the applications of nested for loop, it is used for pattern printing, working with 2D arrays, generating combinations and repeating operations inside repeated operations. Now let us go to the CodeChef platform to see an example of nested for loop in C++. Here the program objective is displaying pairs of I and j using nested loop. So here we are going to take two variables I and j, and we will be running iterations using the for loop to assign different values to I and j. In the output, we will see how the values of variables I and j change with each iteration. Coming to the code, hash include iostream, then using namespace std, semicolon, int main, the bracket begins for the main function, then for int I is equal to 0. So here we have declared and initialized the variable I with value 0. Semicolon, I should be less than 3. So the value of I can be 0, 1 and 2 and I plus plus. So the value of I will increase by 1 with each iteration. Then the bracket opens for the outer for loop, and there we have inner for loop, which is the nested for loop. For int j is equal to 0, j is less than 2. That means the value of j can be 0 and 1 and j plus plus. Then cout extraction operator in double inverted commas I colon, then the value of variable I will be printed. Again extraction in double inverted commas comma j colon, extraction operator, then the value of variable j will be printed, and then endl semicolon. The bracket for the inner for loop closes and the bracket for the outer for loop closes here. Return 0 semicolon and the main function ends here. Now let us run the program to see the output. So initially the value of I was 0 and the value of j was also 0. Then for I is equal to 0, the value of j increased to 1. Here as you can see, initial value of I is 0 and initial value of j is also 0. Now for I is equal to 0, j got incremented to 0 plus 1, 1. And again the value of j increased to 2. But as per the condition, the value of j should be less than 2. That is why again the outer loop runs for I is equal to 0 plus 1, 1. So then the value of I is 1 and then initial value of j is 0. Then for I is equal to 1, j is incremented to 1. Now j cannot be more than 1. That is why again the outer loop runs and the value of I is incremented to 2. Because the value of I has to be less than 3. So it can be increased up to 2. J is equal to 0. Then I 2 and j is 1. For loop with break. Break is used when you want to stop the loop immediately, even if the loop condition is still true. When the program encounters a break inside a for loop, it jumps out of the loop instantly and control moves to the statement which is after the loop. Its syntax is for, then in bracket initialization condition update bracket close. Now if this condition is true, then the compiler will get inside the curly brace. Inside the curly brace, we will find the piece of code which will be executed if the condition is true, and then it has a break semicolon statement. Then bracket close for the for loop. For loop with break statement is useful when you found what you were searching for, or you want to stop early based on some condition, or to avoid unnecessary iterations. Now let us go to the CodeChef platform to see how to use for loop with break statement in C++. The program objective is for loop with break, and the expected output is first even number found : 12. Coming to the code, hash include iostream using namespace std semicolon. Int main, now inside curly brace, we have a for loop for, then inside the bracket int I is equal to 11, semicolon I is less than equal to 18, semicolon I plus plus. So the starting value for I is 11 and the loop will run till the value of I is incremented to 18. I plus plus means after each iteration, the value of I will be incremented by 1. Then the curly brace begins. Now here we have an if condition. Then in braces we have the condition I modulus 2 is equal to 0. That means if the number which is the current value of I is divisible by 2, then the compiler will get inside this if block. Cout extraction operator in double inverted commas, first even number found : and then the value of I for which this condition is true will be printed. That means the first number which is divisible by 2 will be printed. ENDL semicolon. Then break. So since we have applied break statement here, that means as soon as the first value which is divisible by 2 is found, the code will not run for further values of I. It will just get out of the loop printing just one number, the very first number which is divisible by 2. Then the inner curly bracket close for the if block and then curly bracket closed for the for loop. Return 0, semicolon, and the main function ends here. So initially the value of I is 11. Now when this if condition is checked for 11 modulus 2, the answer will not be 0. So condition false, that is why it will come out of the for loop, and again it will check since this if condition is false now. So the code which is written inside the if block will not be executed. Then the value of I will be incremented to 11 plus 1, 12. Again, if condition will be checked for I is equal to 12. 12 modulus 2 is equal to 0. Yes, condition true. So it will print first even number found : then the value of I is 12. Since here we have a break statement, the compiler will exit the loop and it will not run for further values of I. Now let us run the program and see the output. First even number found : 12. For loop with continue. Continue is used to skip the current iteration and move to the next iteration of the loop. It does not exit the loop, it only skips the code below the continue statement for the current iteration. Coming to the syntax, for, then in brackets initialization, condition, update. If this condition is true, then the compiler will get inside the curly brace. Inside the curly brace, it will find the piece of code which will be executed if the for loop condition is true, and then the continue semicolon statement and bracket close. We use for loop with continue statement when we want to ignore unwanted values or to bypass specific cases or to apply logic only to selected conditions. Now let us go to the CodeChef platform and see how to use for loop with continue statement in C++. Program objective is for loop with continue to skip even numbers. The expected output is 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Coming to the code, hash include IOStream using namespace std semicolon int main. The curly brace begin. Now for loop. For int I is equal to 1, semicolon I is less than equal to 10, I plus plus. Now if this condition is true, then inside curly brace, the piece of code which will be executed is if then I modulus 2 is equal to 0. That means if the value of I is divisible by 2, it is an even number, then the compiler will get inside this curly brace which has the continue statement. Continue statement means if the number is even, then the further piece of code will not be executed. This current iteration will be skipped and the value of I will be incremented by 1 and again the condition will be checked for the next value of I. Then this curly brace for if block closes here. Cout extraction operator I, then the value of I will be printed only for odd numbers because for every even number we have this continue statement, which means this part of code will be skipped for even numbers, so those numbers will not be printed. Then here we have the curly brace closed for the for loop, returns 0, semicolon and the main function ends here. Now let us run the program to see the output. Since the loop began with 1 and ended at 10, so all the numbers between 1 to 10 which are odd are displayed here. Loop variable scope in for loops. The scope of a loop variable refers to where that variable exists and where it can be accessed. In C++, if you declare a variable inside the for loop, just like for int I is equal to 0, semicolon I less than 5, semicolon I plus plus bracket close, then we can access this value of I or we can access the I variable only inside this for loop because we have declared it inside the for loop block. So curly brace begins, cout extraction operator, print value of I, extraction operator endl semicolon, and the curly brace for loop ends here. Here the variable I exists only inside the loop. That means if we try to access the value of I outside the for loop, then it will not be accessible to us. Another important point is that why scope matters. It matters because it helps avoid naming conflicts. It helps prevent bugs. It keeps variables organized and encourages clean coding practices. And that wraps up today's discussion on for loop basics. You learned how nested loops work, how to control loops using break and continue statements, and the importance of understanding a loop variable scope. Don't forget to practice using these concepts on the CodeChef platform. Thank you so much for watching.